boom, boom. Boom, boom. 20 bucks. 20 bucks. Along the line for 20 bucks. If you come playing, well, clothing's playing. Hi everybody! Mrs. Calabash, come into my kitchen, and Maggie. Hi Jabor. Now today, you've caught me just rolling out the pastry. We're going to make an old-fashioned English tart, a treacle tart, and a jalapeno, I've got to look at this because it's such a long title, a jalapeno bacon and cheese soup. Now this is a meal in itself, it's a meal in a bowl. But to begin with, I've got the oven on. I just want to start rolling out the pastry and getting the treacle tart on. If you go online, you'll see various recipes for treacle tart. Originally, treacle tart, it was made with breadcrumbs. And it has been updated by various cooks where it's got cream, egg and butter in now. Absolutely delicious. But I'm making the treacle tart that my mother used to make. And this is an old-fashioned treacle tart. It's what the housewives used to make, the farmers' wives used to make. It was a quick, easy, economical dessert. And for this, you do actually need golden syrup. You can't get away with anything else other than golden syrup. And I was delighted. I went into Mrs. McGarrigle's yesterday in Merrickville here in our local store. And guess what? Not only had she got golden syrup, yay, but black treacle. Now, if you remember, I was making parking the other day and I couldn't find any black treacle anywhere. And so, of course, I didn't go in to see Janet, did I? Stupid. I used molasses, but it's not the same as black treacle. So if you're looking for black treacle or golden syrup, it's Mrs. McGarrigle's here in Merrickville, and she's got both of them and they keep it in all the time. I'm just going to put this at the back. I might need a little more of this. So saying, the original, I'm just making a short crust pastry, but you can actually use one of the already the frozen pie crust, or you can use pre-made frozen pastry that you just need to roll out. But a short crust pastry, it's half fat to flour. Regardless of if you're using half an ounce, it's 1/4 ounce fat. It's half fat to flour. And the original treacle tarts were baked on a pie dish or an old-fashioned dinner plate. This is stone, this is oven proof. Now we want to line that with a piece of pastry. And if you've got any pastry left over, now the modern day cookery books tell you to do a lattice, but that's not how it was traditionally finished off. So let's just measure. You see, we need to roll that out just a little bit more. Let's get rid of that. Now to turn your pastry, put it over the rolling pin like that. You can make little individual little tartlets as well. That's very nice. But don't push, just, as I said before, short, sharp rolls for your pastry. Keep it just lined underneath like that. Now that to me looks as though it's going to be plenty, and we've got some to cut off around the edge. So the rolled side is always the pretty side. So just turn it over like that. It is going to be filled, but never mind. Now, look, I'm turning it into 4. Let's get rid of some of this like that. Now to line anything, this is the easiest way to do it. Fold it into 4 and just put that into the centre. Unfold it like so, like that. Now, we don't want this to rise, so use that part of the finger and we're pressing out all the air, like that. Like that. Press it down. Now, if you're making this in a flan tin, I would just bake this blind for a few minutes. That means lining it with some parchment paper and putting some beans, or just crinkling aluminum foil in there. Now, this is going to shrink a little bit. So this is a very old knife, as you can see. This is one of my original dining knives that I had when I was 19, when I left college and moved into my own bedsitter. So it's old. So just take this and push it against the side of the plate like that. And there you are. You've got a clean edge. Now this, I'm going to put into the fridge. And hang on a minute, I don't want to waste it. We can bake this at the same time, or I can freeze this. I have got just a small plate here. Again, it's got the ridge. Let's just put that in the fridge just to keep nice and cool, if I can find room. There we are. Just want to keep that cool whilst we're going to make the filling, and quickly I'll roll this out. We don't want to waste it. Now these are the trimmings, and if you're doing the lattice, that's what you would have used. Just use that for the lattice. Make sure your rolling pin is just lightly floured. You don't want to kill it with too much flour. And this is just a rough. We used to make these, and if there was any pastry left over, it would be made, and currants would go in there, jam would go on there. Or if we've got any treacle left over, another treacle filling. So that's just a little rough thing, so that we don't waste the pastry. So I'll put that back in the fridge. It's never wasted. We never waste anything. So now you'll notice I'm using, it's an old ruler, and this is actually a printer's ruler. It's got the point settings on for the different type settings, and it's ideal for this. But if you haven't got anything like this, then a strong plastic spatula works wonders. Put your bowl underneath like that. That's all cleaned away. We'll just wash that board down quickly, and then we'll get it filled. Now you notice I held the bowl underneath the butcher block, and that's so that the flour, the waste, can go in there, and there's very little on the floor. I've probably got more on me actually. I always manage to get flour all over me. It's a sign of a good cook. There we are, all done, and that's nice and clean. I like to keep a damp cloth washed out just on my butcher block, and then I can keep my butcher block clean. So now for the topping for this, we've got golden syrup, rolled oats, and I've got some lemon juice because it is quite sweet. So it really is very simple. I'm going to put the syrup in there, and syrup is always better if it's warmed. It runs easier. So you can warm your tin to get the syrup out, or to pour it without making a mess, just put a little bit of oil, around a drop of oil around the top of the can. And so I've got the oven on. It's a gas oven, and there's heat coming up, and so that's just got the syrup warm. And I just want to heat this very, very gently, and I'm going to put the oats in. But these are quite large oats. I might need a few more. You don't want to make it too stiff because it will stiffen up as it cools. So we're just going to coat the oats, and I don't want to over lemon. I had an old lemon which I'd zested, and this is some of the juice. You can add some lemon zest to this, but we don't want to make it too lemony. I can take all that. I just want to take the really, really sweetness away from it. That's fine. So we're going to take this back now to the table. Sorry, Derek. And get out my pie, like that. And we're just going to put this into there. This is ideal, this pan. It's light and it's non-stick, so everything, you don't waste anything. So we're going to scrape as much as possible out, like that, and just push it towards the edge. Now, you'll find some recipes do Sorry, folks.
Oh, they got it. Oh, we're back.
We're back. The audio.
Mine.
Oh. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Derek, can you hear me?
There you are. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. We lost the audio. It seems to have a loose connection, so I've just changed microphones. I don't know how far we got, but we've put the syrup mixture in there with, I'm just going to scrape all this out like this. Don't want to waste any. Now, you will read in some of the cookery books that you have a few breadcrumbs in. Originally, as I said before, it was made with breadcrumbs because it was the housewife's way of using up stale bread. Because obviously, in those days, we're talking going back to the 1800s, there wasn't any bought bread. Now you see what I'm doing. I'll show you what I'm going to do. So every alternate one is and this is the tricky bit, because with my way of looking at things, I can never work out which way to do it. So I turn down whilst I'm cutting it. So just now, you see, I've got one there. So what do? I've got that in the centre, and voila, there. That's the traditional way of serving a treacle tart, not with a lattice. A lattice is the modern day. It looks lovely, but this is the quick and easy way, and we're going to put this in the oven. I've got the oven on about 350, 360, and that will take about 25 minutes to cook. So in the meantime, we're going to make the jalapeno soup. Now, I've started doing little bits and pieces with this. I did the bacon. I fried the bacon off because you don't want to see me just frying little bacon pieces. And they're only for garnish anyway. But we use the fat in the pan for the flavour. And I find the easiest way for bacon, because I can't chop bacon in a slice, I just get the scissors, take off all the fat and put the fat in there, bring it up gently for the heat, and then I add the rest of the bacon and gently cook it. I had a very bad reputation with bacon. I used to put it on full heat, stand back and say, right, it's cooked. And of course it was burnt. So when I had the restaurant, I had to learn, we started to do breakfast in France, English breakfast. I had to learn how to cook breakfast because my breakfasts weren't good. So I've cooked the bacon, and this is some ground beef. It's lean ground beef. Now I've got some, there we are. This is lean ground beef, and I've put the heat up. I want to brown this. And if we get too much fat from this and the bacon, we're going to drain it off because we don't want a lot of fat. And there's nice little brown bits on the bottom of the pan, and they're lovely because they go into the add to the flavour. Today I'm using beef, but you can use chicken or turkey, ground chicken or turkey. It's equally as good. I've chopped the jalapenos, and it did say on the package that they were hot. Now, I've had experience with jalapenos lately that they're not very hot. So I thought I'd taste them. And I just happened to leave a couple of seeds in. Now, I've got a high tolerance of spice. And if I could have hit the ceiling, I would. My whole mouth exploded. And this was, I was prepping about 9 o'clock this morning. My hands are still tingling. So I've cut down a little bit of the amount of peppers to go in. So if you've got a really sensitive skin and it says hot jalapenos, I suggest you wear some gloves, some disposable gloves, because these are really, really hot. And I've cut them very, very, very finely. This won't take long to cook, and it's fatal with the bacon because it was nice and crispy, and I had it up on the top here, cool. I drained it on some kitchen paper and cooling, but every time I walk by I'd eat a little bit of bacon. So I recommend that you cook a few more slices of bacon if you're going to if you're anything like me. Now this The bottom of the pan is clearing because all that nice juice has gone into all the little crispy bits. Now this is heavy, but I'll just try and lift it up and show you like that. I'm going to just drain off. No, there's not enough to drain off. I'm going to make a mess. I'm going to lose the meat if I try to drain that drop of juice off. It's not at all greasy. And the onions, I've lost the onions. There we are. I'm going to add some onions to this. Now I did just, because of the time restraint, I did just lightly saute the onions first and then I just drain them. So we've got onions in there and we've got bell peppers, sweet peppers. Now I hadn't got any green peppers in. I know it says a green and a red pepper, but I'd got an orange pepper and a yellow pepper. So you use whatever you've got in. And we're just going to add those. I want the peppers to cook quite nicely. But as I say, this really is a meal on its own. It's a meal in a bowl. And we have diced potato. But again, I just lightly cook the potato because I want it to cook. Normally, I would have it cooking for about half an hour whilst the potato's cooked. But I just want this to cook. We don't want to overcook the peppers. Now, the jalapenos. How many should I put in? I like spice, but I don't want to overspice. Come on. In for a penny, in for a pound, as we say in England. There we are. They're all in there. I just want those to cook a little bit. Oh gosh, you can smell them. You certainly won't need any more any more hot sauce with this. I have actually put some sour cream in a dish, just in case it's too hot. Sour cream or yogurt, and that will take away the heat. No, that's okay. That's there. Now we need the broth, and this is for, I'm using chicken broth today, but with having beef, I could have used beef broth. That's 4 cups of broth. Let's bring that up. 4 cups of broth. Now the secret ingredients of this, and it sounds like ugh, and it's really quite tasty, and that's pickle juice. It's I use and it just adds a nice taste to it. I've just got the pickled oh, I call them gherkins. What do you call them here? Excuse me, I'm just going to go over. Dill pickles. It's dill pickle. Oh, sorry. Hi, Anna. It's Anna Zavich. It's a friend of mine, and she was an ex-coordinator in one of the cooking schools that I used to work at. And Laurie, hi Laurie, nice of you to join. Anna, we're doing treacle tart and we're doing jalapeno and cheese soup. And it's like a cheeseburger soup, it's a meal in one. So that's the peppers that I'm using. I didn't use the sweetened pickle because I don't want any added sugar. that's just complete choice to you. But let's go back and have a look at this. We put the pickle juice in, and that just adds a certain something. Whoops. I'm going to put the potatoes in, and then I will season, because the potatoes will take a certain amount of the seasoning away, and they will take a certain amount of the heat away. If you've ever made a dish like soup, stew or casserole, and you've added salt and you think, oh, it's too salty, slice a raw potato and just put it over the top and let it cook for a little while, and that will draw the salt out of the casserole, and so that it's not quite so salty for you. I'm going to taste it first before we add any seasoning. It's not too hot. It has, so say it, I take it back. It has got quite a bite to it, but it needs some salt. That's salt and pepper, which is mixed up together, but I don't want to add any more pepper, but I want to add some more salt. The salt will bring out the flavour. I can smell the oven, excuse me. Oh yeah, cooking nicely. I'm going to leave it like that for the moment, because we're going to make, let's just leave it like that at the moment, because we're going to make a sauce out of this, a sauce in here with flour, and it'll need, the seasoning will need adjusting. We're going to make what's called, oh, I've lost it. We make a roux, almost like a roux in a bowl, and we mix it together, and we can whisk this into the sauce. Now, I always keep some of this made up in the fridge, and then if I'm making a sauce like this, if I need to thicken anything, then it's already there. This is just a little bit, I've had the butter out, but it's such a cold day. What I'm going to do actually is just go to the fridge. I've got some soft margarine. I'm going to add a little margarine to that. It's easier to work with. Just a little soft margarine. There we are. Put that over there. I want to show you what I'm doing. Just mixing all this in together. And it's easy to control the thickness of the sauce when you're doing this, or your broth, because you can add a little bit more. If you don't need to add it all at once, you can add a little bit more, and then you can control the thickness. Now, I normally keep that made up in the fridge in a container, and then I just pull it out as needed. So I want to check to see if those potatoes are cooked. They should be. Because you don't want to overcook the potatoes and for them to disintegrate on you. So let's just put some of this in, and we can whisk this in like this. It will go a little bit lumpy to begin with, don't worry. I'm just going to put my oven up a little bit. It's a little bit slow today. There we are. Now that's not quite thick enough for what I wanted, so we'll put a little bit more in. We can always add some more if we need it. We can make some more because I want it to be reasonably thick. Let it come up to the boil, and so that all the starch grains can burst and thicken. Otherwise it'll taste a little bit raw. You need a little bit of patience to do this. That's my oven just reaching temperature. Yeah, I think that will do it. Let me. You know what? I'm going to just put a little more, a small amount of thickening in there. It's not quite as thick as I would like, because this is a main course meal. There we are. I've got some extra flour, you see, just in case. So we'll mix it together again. I don't like using cornstarch for thickening. I don't think it's got such a nice flavour. Just add a little bit more. We don't want it to boil too much because there's the meat in there, and we don't want the meat to go tough. Boiling with protein will harden the protein. There we are. Just a little more. There we are. That's better. I can feel it better. Now, another thing which goes in here at this stage is just a little, look, tiny amount of Dijon mustard. I preferred the whole grain mustard. A little dried oregano, and that's the oregano that we grew in the garden. You saw me drying it. Like that. So that's why I didn't over season at the original stage, because we've added these other ingredients which all make a nice blend to it. So let's do a little bit more tasting. It's almost there. It's almost there. I am going to, and it's not over hot, you see now. It's not at all hot. Now everything has gone in there. A little bit more salt and pepper, and a little bit of salt on its own. Not much. There we are. Because we're going to put cheese on the top, and we're going to put some cheese in there, and so that's salty. Let's just stir that around. You can use a creamy Dijon if preferred. Oh yes, That's good. And the secret ingredients to this is Velveeta cheese, which is, this is one of Derek's favourite. This is about the only thing I use Velveeta cheese for, I must confess. He loves to make a spaghetti sauce out of it. But let's have a look. I've not put any milk in this at the moment because I'm going to put the cheese in and we'll add some milk and see just how much milk is needed. So I've turned the heat down. I turned it off actually. I've turned the heat down and I just want to stir this until the cheese is melted. But we don't want to overheat the cheese. So we just got to, oh, it's looking good. It's looking very, very good. That looks like a piece of, it's hard to tell whether the cheese, whether it's a piece of cheese or a piece of orange pepper. That's probably why they say use red and green peppers, and then you can see when the cheese is actually melted. Makes sense. There we are. That is almost there. And we're going to add a drop of milk. I'm going to add the milk gradually so that we don't thin the soup out too much. It depends if you like a thick soup or a thin soup. Now I'm going to add a little milk. Like that. Oh yes. And we will taste again now at this stage because we've added, we don't need quite all that milk. Just going to make sure that it's all heated through. We'll taste again because we've added some other bits and pieces to it. That is a nice creamy soup. So let's just leave that on low. I don't want it to, I want to keep it warm, but not to actually boil. So we'll just turn it right down, keep it on low, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to look in the oven. There we are. I just had to turn the treacle tart round. The oven isn't quite level, so it cooks more on one side than the other. But it's fine. Every oven has its own little idiosyncrasies. But there are some little feet. But the floor, it's a very old house. I think this was 1886, so this is the old part of the house, and the floors are not quite level. Anyway, come back to the table and I'll show you what I'm going to do. To go on to the... Hi Louisa. It's great that you could actually join. I love it when people join in. Yeah, come in. If you've got any comments, any questions, you know, just type them in and I'll see if I can answer them for you. For the top, we've got cheese. Now, this is extra Old Fort. This is extra strong. You can use that, a nacho cheese, a jalapeno, or you could use an Irish cheddar or an English cheddar, which is really, really strong and got a taste of its own. So that was an extra strong cheese. These are the little bacon pieces that I was telling you about. Nice and crispy, and we're going to put those on the top as well. I've got a little parsley here and some herbs and a little paprika pepper. So what I'm going to do is, I don't think I'm going to need it actually, the sour cream, but it is nice just to put some sour cream and yogurt over the top. So I've got the sour cream, and it looks a bit bland. So just put a little paprika on the top there. Just gently nudge the spoon. Some paprika and parsley. This is rather nice actually. I brought all my herbs in just before the nasty weather came. And so I can just pick the parsley as needed. It all adds a little bit of colour. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually slice some of these dill and put them on the top of the soup. This is totally optional. That's if I can get them out. Oh, they pack them in well, don't they? There we are. I'm very partial to pickles, so let's get a proper knife. We need to slice. Let's move these out of the way. Now you see, when I'm slicing, it's the same as chopping. Keep that point down. Have a knife that feels comfortable in your hand. I don't like the big chef's knives. I've only got little hands. So let's just slice some. Yeah, you could use, yes, Anna, you could use a coconut milk. That would give it a nice creamy flavour. I wouldn't use an almond milk, but certainly a coconut milk would be great. I use coconut milk in everything. It just gives it a beautiful creamy flavour with the coconut milk. That is a good question actually, because if somebody is gluten intolerant or lactose intolerant, you could use the coconut milk if you're lactose intolerant, and if you're gluten intolerant, then thicken with either a gluten-free flour or with some cornstarch. That would, so that that's the only thing which has got gluten. And if you're lactose intolerant, rather than use butter, use a soya margarine. So just adapt the recipe for your own dietary needs. I know Anna's mum is very intolerant of gluten. I remember. You see, Anna, that's years ago, and I remember you telling me. We were doing a gluten-free class. I think I was cooking it. That is cooked. I'm just going to cancel my oven for that. Here we go. Soup time. Let's take that away. We don't want that. We don't want that. Clear the decks. I got my nice oven-proof casserole. And that is courtesy of Ali. Thank you, Ali. We both had the same dinner service back in the 60s. And when I went to see Ali in the summer, she said, would I like the casserole? I said, oh, yes, please. There we are. Just stir everything around. And this is where I grunt, because it's rather heavy. Oh, there we are. Take it over here. Put it on a serving dish. Now I'm going to put some grated cheese on the top. I just put this out on the table. I put a little on the top and then put this out on the table so people can help themselves. The same with bacon, because not everybody wants bacon. But I'm just going to put a little bit on the top there. And a couple of dill slices. Again, we'll put those in a little bowl. And when it's served, people can help themselves, because not everybody likes dill. And so that is my jalapeno and cheese soup. So let's ladle some out. Like that. We can add just a little more cheese. There we go. And that. And maybe that. And we can serve that with all these little bits and pieces to go with it. And some fresh crusty bread. This is I won't get very far with that one. That's a slicing one. There we are. Homemade bread. Nice slicey bread, or you can have, you could eat it with some French bread, and there you are, a meal in a bowl. So let's have a look how the treacle tart has cooked. That's dessert. So after eating this, you'll need a dessert. Everybody needs dessert. So let's go and have a look. It's a little bit hot, so I don't want to burn the table. But that is, let's move all this over here. And that is the treacle tart. And I'm going to serve that with a little clotted, I lived in Devon. I've lost the cream. Where is my cream? I was going to say clotted cream. If you live in Devon, you'd serve it with clotted cream. But I wish some cream. Now, I've not added any sugar to the cream, just a little vanilla. Just a little vanilla essence. I'm going to wait before I serve that for a minute or two, just so that it cools. Remember, if you look at it and you think it's a little bit moist, it will harden on cooling, because it's the syrup. It hardens. So thank you everybody for watching the program, and for the questions, and welcome into the club, everyone. The more the merrier. And so next week, well, during the week, hopefully, I'm going to be making Christmas puddings, also known as plum pudding, for the promo. I've got all the ingredients together. I just got to find the time to do it, because we have to boil for about 6 hours. And next week, if my memory serves me correctly, I've written the recipe. I'm going to make a chili, but I'm going to be using some dark chocolate in it. Adds the flavouring, and some corn muffins to go with it. So please, everyone, go to Mrs. Calabash Cook's website. As I say, all donations are gratefully received. And if you want, just for a programme, to donate $12, we will put your name up. The program will be named after you, and you can ask for which dishes you'd like me to cook. So thank you again for watching, and don't forget to join us for the chat on Tuesday at 7:30. And again, we can sit round the table, have a coffee or a glass of wine, and I can answer I have a guest coming in, and this week it's Connie, and Connie is a psychic. And she's extremely good, believe you me. So please join me on Tuesday, and thank you for watching today. And hi everybody, bye. Have a great weekend. Drive carefully in this weather because the roads were very bad today. So bye. Thanks. 20 bucks. You'll go in line for 20 bucks. Nipsey on playing. Bloody's playing. Little and some dimes. 20 bucks. 20 bucks.
Well.